Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is KPZ. You're here on the home of the Slightly Above Average Ship Review. If I remember way back in the days before there were carriers, they came out and the first carrier I did a review of was the Japanese Tier 5 premium carrier Zuiho. We have reached the post-buff, post-nerf of the buff phase. The Zuiho was not nerfed after it was buffed. So this game was played on June 3rd, I want to say. So post-buff nerf, of which no nerf was applied. Let's compare the Zuiho to our first match in the Zuiho that you saw. I'm going to put the link up, the video, I think it's called I Hope I Don't Embarrass Myself in the Zuiho. In that first game in the Zuiho, we finished top of the board. We had about 18,000 or 1,800 and change base XP, maybe 1825, 1845, something like that. We had 11 torpedo strikes, we had a couple of kills, and we finished at the top of the board with about 89,000 damage, okay? So that's our comparison to, did the buffs help, hurt, work, don't work? We're gonna see, all right? So we're here in this match. Just generally speaking, the carriers got more airplanes. The airplanes have less health. The armaments do less damage, although there are more bombs and torpedoes, and the airplanes recharge quicker. While I'm sailing around dropping with various effects, let's go through the changes made to the Zuiho from the Ministry of Balance. Dive bombers, bombs per aircraft went up from 1 to 2. Aircraft in the squadron went up from 6 to 8. Hit points per aircraft was decreased from 2575 to 1850. Base speed increased by 11 knots. Max flight range was set at 27 kilometers. Is not very far. You got to maneuver your carrier and be close enough to the battle to be effective, but far enough away so you don't get killed by a quickly rushing through ship. All right, bomb damage was cut in half from 10,400 to 5,200. So they gave you an extra bomb, but each bomb does half the max damage that it used to do. The fire setting chance of the bombs was reduced from 55% to 38%. You're going to see bomb drops in this game, no fire, okay? HE bomb penetration was reduced by just under 10 millimeters. It's like 9.8 millimeters. The splash radius of the bomb was reduced. The restoration time of the aircraft was reduced by 8 seconds. And the restoration went from 1 aircraft to 2 aircraft. Let me check back on the match here while I'm blabbering. All right, so still not a lot has been accomplished. All right, we're going to maneuver just in case the enemy pushes too hard over here. Back to the Ministry of Balance, torpedo bombers. Here are the changes. Aircraft and squadron went from 6 to 9. The number of attacking aircraft per strike went from 2 to 3. The maximum aircraft hit point decreased by almost 1,000 hit points, 975 per aircraft. Base speed went up by 10 knots. The flight range was set to 28 kilometers. The torpedo arming time, you may have seen this already, it almost doubled. It went from 3.66 seconds to 7 seconds. That is significant. You will see when I first went to do a drop, I was caught off guard. I had to do like a dry run. Now, in the subsequent torpedo drops, you're going to see me giving much more space for those torpedoes to arm. But that being said, now you've got to lead the enemy ship more because you got to give your torpedo time to arm. All right, the damage increased from 6,966 to 9,100. The torpedo speed went up by 5 knots. The hangar increased from 10 to 18 aircraft. The restoration time dropped by 6 seconds, and the aircraft restored went from 1 to 3. So pretty significant. So I would check the individual carrier that you're using, but generally speaking, you got more planes, you're dropping more ordnance. The ordnance does about half the damage that it used to do. The planes have a lot less hit points, so they get killed more easily. So you might have more bomb hits and more torpedo strikes, but end up doing less damage in these new carriers. The flip side of that is you might not need to spend any mod slots on torpedo restoration or aircraft restoration anymore. I haven't made those changes to my aircraft carriers yet, and I'm not going to come out with another carrier video next week. I promise you that this is the last carrier video you're going to see for quite some time, unless I get a Kraken in the middle of somewhere. And I don't play carriers that often. But that being said, the changes you will see is that you might not need to boost aircraft restoration in the mod slots or in your commanders anymore, because they're giving you more airplanes, okay? And I've seen many people on Reddit talking about how they can't run the carrier dry. And I can tell you in those early videos I talk about all the time, aircraft restoration time. I don't think it's a concern anymore. I'm going to do my own experimentation, but I think you can safely remove aircraft restoration time from your mod slots and be totally good to go. All right. And again, read the articles and see the changes made to each individual carrier. I did look at the nerf or the rebalancing of the balance change, and it looked like it was mostly higher tier carriers, tier 7 and legendary tier carriers, that were having changes made to the armament, probably because those are the carriers most being played. Okay, so we've established we're going to drop more ordnance. Our planes are a lot weaker individually. They're going to recharge quicker, which we're seeing. Less chance of getting a fire. And at the end of the day, the torpedoes do a little bit more damage. They're a little quicker, but they take much longer to arm. So that's reflecting what I'm seeing here in the Zuiho. Okay? So does it make the Zuiho stronger or weaker? Really, it depends on one factor. I think one of the ships that was made the most strong by these changes, or benefits the most from these changes, are destroyers, especially destroyer players who go carrier hunting. I think you will see more destroyer players hunt down the carrier at the beginning of the match because they know the carrier is only locally spotting them on the minimap. They are not spotting them for everyone on their team. And by removing the carrier, you remove what in the hands of a good player is still a very dangerous, sometimes maybe overpowered part of the game. If the guy's a bad carrier player, you won't know that. If he's a good carrier player, and you're a destroyer player, you're still in danger, okay? So I can see where the new meta is destroyers trying to go out around the sides of the map to find the carrier and take the carrier out because they can. The other part of that spotting thing is if you get a really good destroyer player, and right here I want to talk about this. We started our run right as that Texas got killed. If my torpedo arming window hadn't doubled, I could have saved that flight of airplanes. But because it's now so much longer, I had to commit to that, and then the ship got killed. You're going to see that happening to yourself a lot, unfortunately. All right, sorry I had to get some green tea up in me. Arizona, the big cans. All right, here we're going to just drop to see if we can scare the destroyer out of the smoke screen. I did that because my plane's running out of gas. You're going to have to make choices like that with this new fuel consumable. All right, resetting the match. We have a one-ship lead. We have a very small, like 80-point lead. The enemy is trying to flip 2 cap circles from blue to red. And the enemy does have 2 caps solidly in their hands. We've got about 38,000 damage right now. We got 4 torpedo strikes and 4 torpedo strikes, 8 bomb hits. So, you know, really, I would say in a carrier like this, a Japanese carrier, play to your strengths. Try to send as many torpedo sorties up as you can. And with this new recharge mechanism, you should have plenty of airplanes to do that with. Okay, you can monitor down in the lower right-hand corner. That's the number of airplanes available. And then the smaller number is the number of total airplanes. Once you reach that and your flight deck is full or whatever, you're going to see these planes restore so quickly that really you could never run out of airplanes unless you're really terrible at dropping and you're just getting them all killed like right away. So strategy, try to avoid multiple ships clustered together, creating an AA bubble. Try to avoid that. As I've stated before, I think your planes are the most vulnerable. Right after you make a drop and when you're wheeling around to target that ship or another ship close by, I think that's when most of your planes are going to get shot down. So keep that in mind. All right, here it is now a 3-on-2. I want to say in a minute it's going to be maybe a 2-on-2 or 2-on-1. But we are going out with our torpedo bombers, and we've got to make an impact on this match. And we're going to do that by targeting a ship that doesn't have great AA, also a very strong ship that can affect the outcome of the game. I tell you, I wouldn't blame anybody in a carrier if you strictly targeted the battleships in the beginning of the game. Here is a Hyuga. As you very well know, is one of the strongest premiums at Tier 5. We're going to go in here and try to drop on the Hyuga. A little earlier, I dropped on the Queen Elizabeth. I know I was just blabbering about nonsense, but when I dropped on the Queen Elizabeth, it was turning its tail to me. It was turning away. And so it's a valid strategy to get part of your arming window over a ship that's running away, because by the time the ship gets to the end of the arming window, maybe the torpedo will have caught up to the ship, and it'll literally get armed and then hit the enemy ship. So please consider that as a strategy you could use. Here, I'm dropping at the very... I'm starting my torpedo sortie with just enough time to get those torpedoes off and that arming window closed up before the time runs out. So I'm not going to say I'm an expert at doing that, but I generally have pretty good luck. We got all three torpedoes to hit the Hyuga there, so that was really nice. All right, back out with the HE bombers. Again, because we have more bombs now, I'm just trying to get part of the window over the ship, and I'm not trying to totally line it up. Don't get me wrong, if you fall into a scenario where the ship's coming right at your window, great. But I've said before, if you can't line it up perfectly, get either the upper half of the window or the bottom half of the window on the ship, and you should get at least one bomb hit. Now that being said, because our fire chance decreased so much, we'll be lucky to get a fire. Here, he's going to actually sort of give us a little bit more to work with. You can see what I'm talking about there. He turned into it. We got one bomb hit, but we got 3 cap defended flags from the one bomb hit. Somebody explain that to me. I mean, not really, but you know, it's just nonsense, right? Anyway, we ran out of fuel. We're going to put these planes back in the air. I also have to say, the enemy carrier is still alive. I haven't seen his airplanes for quite some time. So I don't know what happened. Maybe he ran out of airplanes, or maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know, but it seems like I haven't seen his aircraft in a little bit. And lo and behold, he's about to get engaged and killed by our destroyer. All right, so we still got the Hyuga up on the board. We're coming at the Hyuga with some more torpedo planes, and we're going to set to drop here. As you can see, I like to get that little V just next to the ship before I start my run. That's going to give me just enough time to get that aiming closed in to the max, and there is the drop. He's starting to turn away, so I didn't totally lead that, the much I was talking about before in terms of putting the arming window on part of the ship, but I got it pretty close. We did get 3 torpedo strikes, and we finish off the Hyuga. So the torps definitely do more damage. IJ and carriers definitely want to build into that. All right, we ended up with just over 80,000 damage, 11 torpedo strikes, and 9 bomb hits. So way more ordnance hits. We shot down 15 airplanes, 1 kill instead of 2 kills in the first match, 6 cap defended flags. So we're going to end up with more base XP, even though we had less damage and less kills in this match. So you're seeing more ordnance hits with the bombs, a lot less damage. So we end up with almost 10,000 less damage than in the last Zuiho video. But that being said, maximize your torpedoes in these ships. and the IJN ships, and you should do all right. We ended up with 2253 base XP, 1 kill, second on our team in the win. And that's the video. All right, maybe it's not the video. Just kidding. I was looking at the other thing. I was thinking, oh, my thing ran out of video. Maybe the thing's over. But anyway, we did better than the enemy carrier. I was just pointing that out, I guess. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time.